I often use the term neural stress in this training. I adopted this name when I couldn't find a better descriptive name for the condition, where the brain has to work a lot of extra work to compensate for the irritation caused by underdeveloped senses, nerve integration problems, or a lot of harm bringing primitive reflexes, for example. I will give a little background on this term. Stress is a human resource. With it we can increase our performance a lot without damaging the brain. It is true that prolonged and very high stress can even damage the brain, but I'll talk about it in another lecture. So, stress is part of normal life and even protects it. The current way of life just often becomes very stressful. The neighbor is keeping noise, work is busy, traffic is jammed, and even at home, it can be stressful. But these are all external stressors. Sometimes we can even influence them. However, the concept of neural stress holds internal causes of stress. Let's look at it closer. There can be several internal causes of stress. If we get sick, our body immediately settles into a state of high stress. Therefore, when we are sick, our stress tolerance decreases. Hopefully, doctors can cure the illnesses. Then there are the problems of the mind and endurance, the mental problems, which in the same way increase a human stress. But now I assume that the person has no illness or psychological problems. I defined neural stress as the extra brain work caused by sensory and developmental delays, which makes a human tired and exhausted, and in many ways impairs his ability to learn and concentrate, and lowers general performance. This all raises background stress, which in turn weakens stress tolerance. Here I show a stress model where external stressors, as well as illnesses and mental problems, are eliminated. The picture describes the so-called good situation. In this model, the senses and early reflex development are listed below. The lower horizontal line depicts the level of resting stress. The upper horizontal line describes the amount of stress beyond which increased stress no longer increases performance, but weakens it. It's the situation where a person loses their temper, uses bad words, someone even becomes violent, etc. Then there is a stress tolerance between the two lines. The upper line is fixed, but the lower amount of stress is variable. When a person has abnormal development, so there are no problems with the senses, nerve integration, or primitive reflexes, the stress rarely gets up so much that it crosses that upper line, if ever. And this is the situation when the balance is good, the motor skills are fine, and the balance also guides well, for example alignment of the eyes. Once the hearing is okay, you don't need to strain to find out what was being said, and this saves a lot of energy. Once the reflex development in infancy has been normal, there are no remnants of primitive reflexes that cause sensory sensitivity and interfere with motor and concentration. As a result, background stress at rest is low and the individual has a correspondingly good stress tolerance. It is clear, therefore, that this is a good and desirable situation. And then if for some reason the child's balance doesn't develop properly, he or she has poor motor skills and the eyes don't get the support they need to control the eyes. This raises the background stress. If a child has auditory discrimination problems, it causes a situation where just listening and trying to figure out what was being said takes a lot of energy. Often a child gets tired even in the middle of an hour, when energy resources simply run out in the middle. Clearly, auditory problems raise stress levels. If a child has had bad luck, the early developmental pattern has remained unfinished, and he or she will be left with primitive reflexes left over from infancy. Then they interfere with motor skills, cause sensory sensitivities and even cause poor nerve integration, as these children often have not crawled and crept. The end result can be a persistently high level of neural stress. And all of these developmental issues then raise background stress, and stress tolerance at the same time deteriorates. This situation is familiar to many parents and teachers. The child will not tolerate any extra stress. Behavioral problems are common and the child has a variety of problems. Fortunately, modern neurophysiological rehabilitation methods can treat the senses, sensory integration, and remnants of primitive reflexes in such a way that elevated background stress can be reduced. And the FinnSenso developmental program is like that.